Slow turn me down.
Slow turn me down. So
I'm more concerned.
You're more concerned. So, all right, a little background. So John and I met a while back.
That's who you said.
So just, we were going to talk about topics that are hot button topics. We'll eventually expand this out into different topics. And we'll get your questions and call in. John's friends will be able to do it. But I don't have a
Hey, good evening. Thanks for joining us live here on We Might Disagree. You've got Brian and John sitting here today. We got special guest Todd over there. Say hi, Todd.
Hi, thanks, guys.
All right, so
we'll give Todd a little bit of background so people know who he is.
Yeah, I think we should, because first I want to do this. I do know Todd very well. I've known Todd for about 16, 17 years, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit like that.
We had a mutual... I don't know. We worked at Wix.
we worked together.
Yeah, we worked together. All right, so we were good teammates. Anyway, so Todd, go ahead and talk to us.
Okay, well, I'm from Jerseyville, Illinois. I've been a lifelong, I would say, fiscal conservative, probably a little more middle of the road socially. That's where me and Brian might disagree on certain things.
Always
occasionally.
Always get labeled.
Anyway, went to college down at SIU Carbondale. Played football down there. Didn't get a degree, but that happens. Got my degree from Fontbonne University, and I have an MBA from the University of Illinois.
Very nice. You're doing very well now. So Todd and I talk a lot on Facebook, and I threw out on Facebook for anybody to come on. Todd's got some very good talking points. They're going to come from a factual base, not a rant and pull out of the air type of thing. So tonight we're going to talk about Donald Trump. Obviously, we got the convention going on, a lot of excitement there. Actually, it's not a lot of excitement. It's kind of disappointing. We're going to definitely talk about the police shootings. Got some things on there I want to talk about, and who knows where else this is going to lead to. I think probably talk a little bit about Black Lives Matter, because we're going to talk about police shootings. I think there's a misconception on a connection there. So we've got a lot to talk about. So let's just get out of the gate with Donald Trump. So convention, he should be, I don't know, I can't get it pulled up. He should have the nomination by now. They were voting when we were coming on there.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a done deal. Yesterday we saw right out of the gate there's big push, for Cruz. You saw that coming out, and I think today, and you guys can, John, you probably know better than I do. You've been watching this longer than me, but it seems like the conventions are more like a coronation. Like, hey, here comes our party pick. It didn't used to be that way, man. It used to have to battle it out on the floor, and I kind of like that.
I do too.
It's disappointing to see this. You can't, and the never Trump stuff or whatever. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it's kind of testament to the power of corporate governance, meaning you've got these people now that they want it laid on tight. They don't want any variables that they can't control, and it's a shame, because I remember the Kennedy Carter going back and forth at the convention. I remember a little bit. I was kind of young, but I remember Reagan trying to wrestle it from Ford, and it was exciting.
76,
yeah. I remember listening to it on the radio. I remember exactly where I was. I was somewhere like in Colorado in a blue Ford van, listening to the 8-track
Down by the river.
No, that was after Reagan's second term. I was in the van down by the river. But no, I actually, as a kid, believe it or not, I was rooting for Ronald Reagan, hoping he would get the nomination from Ford, and it just didn't happen.
I think Ronald Reagan was very inspiring. I think he's a lot like Barack Obama in a way. He's a very good speaker. Different speakers, obviously,
sure,
very different, but not afraid of anything.
Right.
So we did talk a little bit before the show about who's attending, who's not attending the convention. John, you're kind of like me. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? I think the one person that's missing that's a big deal is Kasich. And Todd, you had some good talking points on that. So why don't you run us through what you were talking about before the show?
Okay, so basically, one of the reasons that has publicly come out why John Kasich may not be possibly at the convention is because of the primary fight with Donald Trump. Kasich had come out when they asked Kasich in the primary process, would you consider being his vice president? He had some very strong words. I don't know the exact quote because that wasn't something that I was really prepared to talk about fully.
You're good.
But he basically said there was probably like zero chance of him actually working with Donald Trump based on the way he acted in the primary. primaries are contentious. I mean, that's the whole nature of the beast. You're trying to win the job and differentiate yourself from the competition. But realistically speaking, I think Trump may have went a little overboard on that and alienated some powerful people.
Trump did say, though, last night on Bill O'Reilly on a phone call in that he felt that Kasich should have been there even if it was a Democratic Party, because Cleveland's struggling so bad financially right now. To have that kind of money injected into that city is pretty irresponsible on his part as a governor to not be there. And I think there's some legitimacy to that. I mean, but let's be honest, the Bushes aren't there either. Mitt Romney's not there. We got a bunch of crybabies that are not there. I mean,
or you can call them principled conservatives.
I wouldn't go quite that far. I don't think personally, I don't think either one of those labels are absolutely correct. I think there's a little bit of anger and disappointment on both sides.
I think for those, so I'd say for the three of us in this room, you could say principled. You know what I mean? I don't think George Bush or Jeb Bush or George H.W. Bush have principled. They're Republicans. That's what they are. They're Republicans to the core. They're Republicans. I don't really think they're Republicans in the sense that I see a Republican. Mitt Romney is a Republican. Well, he is now. He didn't used to be. But my point is that, you know, to have him not there is really, I think it makes him look silly. I mean, you know, I mean, the people, this is about the people. It's not about the party. The people, whether you like Donald Trump, you hate Donald Trump, I mean, he's got his flaws, and we'll talk about him. But at the end of the day, people voted for this man. More people voted for him than any other Republican nominee ever.
Yeah.
I mean, that says something. Whether you like it or not, it says something, you know. I mean, and you just can't ignore it. And I think as a person who would still be in politics for a living, to just put yourself in that position, I don't know. I mean, let's just go out on a limb and say he gets the presidency. And let's say, and this is all hypothetical, obviously, but let's say he's a great president. How dumb do you look? You know, I mean, let's say he does get it and he's, you know, a terrible president. You know, I mean, do you look brilliant? Or, I mean, I don't know. Do you even think about that?
And there's two ways of looking at it. Like my friend Robert, who talked on our show about China, the one comment he's made to me is that he sees Trump very much the way Ronald Reagan was handled when he was at the end in terms of his nomination by the GOP and his election as president, in terms of his treatment by the media, that everybody thought, oh my God, Ronald Reagan's really not going to be president. He's an actor, he's not substantive, he's a moron, he's not very bright. And all those things really did not prove to be correct. You know, you can say a lot of things about Ronald Reagan, but I don't think that he was a puppet on a string. I mean, I can disagree with the man's politics. I give him a lot of credit for being one of the three causes of the ending of the Cold War, much to my chagrin. But, I mean, I'm happy the Cold War is over.
He played it brilliantly.
He did. He played an incredible hand of poker, and I give the man credit for it.
But he also inspired the country when we were coming out of a basically a dark time in the 1970s between the Nixon
Watergate tapes,
Watergate, and the Iran deal, and the OPEC control of oil.
I remember
all those things. Kind of when you had Ronald Reagan coming out saying, "We are the greatest nation in the world. We are the beacon of freedom," and inspiring people to greatness and to try harder and not be like, "Wow, this is bad. We need to get better."
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it feels like today we're getting beat up on all sides.
No,
Just to me, it feels like we're
way.
getting beat up and divided, and then that was one of the things that I think Reagan did very well, was inspire people and unite them into a common purpose, which was winning the Cold War.
Oh yeah, and I think that's what Trump's done. I think people are really frustrated. I mean, you look around and nobody's happy. I mean, everybody's mad. I mean, there's nobody happy. I mean, I think people that are truly into politics. I
think Johnson's happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's at 9%.
He's you know, I think, I mean, I'm not a huge Trump fan. You know what I mean? He's got potential.
And why aren't you a huge Trump fan? Because obviously you're a conservative, and you've been a conservative for a while. You obviously have some reservations. What is it? You know, what does your gut instinct tell you as to why he's not?
He burns to me. I know how the machine works.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know how the machine works. I think he wants to come in and do great things. But the way he's handled and carried himself through the primaries, the way he's doing now, the way he picks fights with people,
The bull in the china shop.
yeah, he's not going to get any support, you know. And so all these things that he wants to do just isn't going to happen. But then you flip the coin, and I'm looking at a possible, Hillary Clinton. I know what I'm going to get with that, you know. I mean, and and I'm not.
Which is funny because you and I have the same view about that. I can go to sleep at night knowing that I'm not thrilled with Hillary Clinton's ethics, but I don't have to worry about somebody accidentally setting off a nuclear warhead. I do worry, not necessarily the specifics of setting. That's a
I get what you're saying,
yeah.
But you know,
It's a metaphor.
Right.
But I don't worry about that with Trump. That's not even my worry. I'm not worried
No.
about wars. I think a lot of his rhetoric is set up to set the tone. For this is the kind of guy I'm going to be. If you want to get into a fight, I'm going to fight you. So I think he's going to put a lot of that down. I don't think you'll have that.
But he's not shown any sign of constraint so far. He hasn't shown any capacity on a long-term basis to say that was just rhetoric. I'm a level-headed guy.
I think you're going to see it after this week. I'm hoping we see it. I mean, I think we need to see it, or he's not going to get.
Yeah, and I think that's also one of those things where it's kind of like disproving a negative. No, I'm not crazy. Really? How do you prove that?
Yeah.
You know, but just by saying it, that's really hard to say. No, I'm not. Maybe I'm using the wrong phrasing.
No,
but
I get your point,
but
but what I would expect is that there would be some situation, some crisis that has unfolded, some confrontation, some issue that some blip on the radar screen where he shows you a different side of his personality, where you would expect him to come out, all fire and vinegar, and instead, you know what? Yeah, maybe that those criticisms are well.
So what about when he postponed his vice presidential announcement in respect to the tragedy that happened in Nice, France? I mean, that was definitely an opportunity for him to look very presidential and take a worldview, and he did. And it's really hard to be presidential in 140 characters on Twitter, and that's what's really changed our view of politics in the world. Twitter and social media alone has changed how we talk about politics.
Right.
Google has done it as well. I think we're all guilty of that on occasion.
Let's get into that. Let's take a real quick break, and then we'll get into that. So you're with We Might Disagree with Brian and John, special guest Todd. We'll be right back.
Why should you bring your vehicle to Quick Lane at Roberts Motors? You never need an appointment, just drive on in. Quick Lane has the guaranteed lowest tire prices around. Plus, we perform a multi-point inspection of the critical items on your vehicle at no charge every time you visit. Ford, Chevy, Toyota, or any other make, Quick Lane can service it. We're even open on Saturdays. Stop by Quick Lane at Roberts Motors today. Come see why life is better in the Quick Lane.
At Midwest Members Credit Union, you are important.
We work hard to ensure you have the best banking experience possible. Whether you are inquiring about opening a savings account or wanting to learn more about a loan, our professionals are here to help you with any questions, and we will walk you through every step of the process. Since opening our doors in 1935, we've never forgotten that our members are our most important asset, which is why we continue to excel.
For all your banking needs, Midwest Members is the one place to go.
You walk onto this campus and it feels as though you're at an Ivy League institution.
It is cultured in so many ways. You would never know that it is a 2-year college.
This place is truly amazing. I love going to school here.
It is definitely not like any other community college.
If you're looking for a way for your life to change, then Lewis & Clark is the place for you to be.
Roku is a small device that connects to your TV for instant streaming over your internet connection. Not only can you watch Netflix, Hulu, and over 600 other channels, you can also stream RBTV straight to your television. Search for RiverBender on Roku.com to subscribe to our free channel.
Do that. Hey, welcome back to We Might Disagree with Brian and John and special guest Todd. So we were talking about Google and Donald Trump and Twitter. He goes crazy on Twitter. We were talking about what happened in Nice the other night, and I think what he did was great. I think his words were kind and respectful, and we all have those concerns. You never know what Donald's going to say. So go back to that, Todd, and just continue with that because I liked it.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the one of the biggest things now is that with social media, we have keyboard warriors on occasion who disseminate facts that they made up.
Yeah.
On the internet?
On the internet.
So I mean,
it must be true because Abraham Lincoln found it on the internet.
If it's on Facebook, it's not actual factual truth.
I
or
wouldn't.
Twitter.
Yeah.
I thought that it had like a spell check. I thought they had a fact check.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, I think Donald Trump has got, I think what he did was the right thing to do. I watched it Sunday, unfortunately, too, when we had that horrible shooting, in Baton Rouge. Thank you. And I noticed one thing that I liked, and I'm going to mix he came out immediately and said something. Hillary waited until after the president put something out. I don't know if it's because she's a Democrat and he's still the president. I don't know if that was the case. I don't know if it's because I feel the sheriff down there punked them both with an anti-gun. This is not a gun problem, and they had to rewrite everything. Or what I liked about it, though, Donald Trump showed leadership. He came right out immediately, a positive message, something we haven't heard. And just to be clear, I think what Obama did finally was a good message. It was a good message. I'll give him that. Especially the first part of it was very good. And I think the country needed to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean...
And I think that's probably amazing considering what happened with the Dallas funeral and how the lecture started almost immediately after that at a memorial for police officers.
It's pretty...
that was pretty...
I think people understand something too. We can all dislike Hillary, we can dislike Trump, we can hate Obama, whatever the kid, we can love them. We need these people to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be good, strong leaders. I watched Bush. He had an opportunity to be a great president. Screwed it up. I watched Obama have a chance to be a great president. Screwed it up. And now you're looking at Trump or Hillary with the opportunity to be a great president. And I mean, the confidence is really low. Right. Because they have an agenda.
Well, and they have the 2 highest negative ratings ever of anybody ever running for president.
It's just like with Obama. He came in knowing this mess he had to clean up, but he had an agenda. But instead of putting his agenda to the side and fixing the mess, he continued to move on his agenda, which is this, now Bush, in his defense, and I'm only going to defend him a little bit here, but he came in with an agenda, and then 8 months into it, he had September 11th happen, 9/11, and it changed his whole presidency. So, but he did focus, he did shift out of his agenda into becoming, defending the,
And if you look at what Bill Clinton did, he had an agenda when he came in, and in 1994, the midterm elections changed everything. He then became a fairly middle-of-the-road conservative guy. And adopted a very conservative platform with the Contract of America. And it worked well. We ended up having a surplus.
Yeah, but that was at a huge cost.
Well, I mean, but
that was at a huge cost. And we could debate that all day long.
Right.
Because he did that by slashing military. So, he balanced the budget, but it was a lot of cuts, which we ended up paying for because I ended up getting bin Laden went from here to here.
Right.
Which ultimately, he attacked us, 9 times under...
I mean, you could tie it to his organization to those over time.
He allowed him to grow.
Right.
But he did balance the budget. I mean, you can't take that away from him.
Right.
I mean, he did it, but he didn't keep us safe. Kind of like Obama didn't keep us safe.
And didn't balance the budget.
No, he hasn't done that either. So, John, you're quiet. That's
well, I was gonna chime in when you said that Obama carried forth on his agenda. And to some extent, I think that's a fair criticism, and to some extent, I don't think it is. Particularly, and again, let's go down memory lane, the collapse of the markets in November of 2008,
right,
or the months preceding the election. You've got the stimulus, and we can argue whether the stimulus was well spent or not. I do think that by most objective measures, it did forestall much more serious economic harm.
I was against it, but now that I learned about it, it was a necessity. It had to happen.
And so, you had my criticism of the stimulus is that Obama should have been more hands-on in terms of picking the particular projects, and it should have gone more to infrastructure and less on some other things. The other thing that he did do, and it was a tactical decision on his part, and I don't know if you remember this, but Rahm Emanuel, who was his chief of staff at the time, told him, don't press forward with this health care bill. And he said, I got to do it. I've got whatever political capital I have right now. This thing has been talked about for 50 years. I'm going to spend my political capital, and I'm going to do it. Now, we can argue till the cows come home whether or not he should have done it, but you have to at least give the man some credit for having the principle to say, look, I think this needs to be done. I know it's not going to be popular, It took every single ounce of political capital that he had, and then some, to get it passed. So that's why he made that decision.
But didn't that also cost his party control of the House?
It did. That's precisely the point.
It was the rise of the Tea Party. It was the, it was the beginning of the divisions that we're seeing today. I think.
But that's exactly my point. Is that the president said, "Look, I know this isn't going to be popular. I know people are going to be coming at me from all sides, but I'm going to stake my claim, put the stake in the ground right here on healthcare."
So how do you feel about the healthcare you rolled out?
How it rolled out, or how it is now.
So here's my thing. I agree with. I think we all agree. Healthcare is a train wreck.
Yeah.
Okay, and it was a train wreck when we first started. I think it's worse, and I can speak to a little bit on my experiences with my previous job that I worked with. I dealt with lower level people making my single. And it's not a good. It's just not. It didn't make anything better. And then the way that it happened as well, I didn't like.
It depends on who you are. Some people benefited from it, and some people didn't.
So who?
If you had a pre-existing condition, you're absolutely thrilled by it. If you're a person of low-income means and you qualify for an Obama plan where you couldn't qualify for anything before, you're thrilled to death. If you're a person whose employer doesn't provide health care because it's a small employer, yeah, you're probably not getting really great policies right now.
No, I mean, and again, I think the way it was done, it was. I remember, and I think a lot of people forget this. And a lot of people like to pick on the Republicans for doing whatever the stuff they do. I remember Nancy Pelosi turning the lights out on the Republicans while they were debating the health care.
And I think that this is the woman who said we got to pass the bill to find what's out find out what's in it. I mean, that's. I mean,
let me explain that.
He's got a theory on this.
No, I remember the specific context.
Go ahead.
The state of the law was in flux. The people were vying for changing all sorts of different options, and it was before it was passed. She said, "Look, I can't respond to what the law is until it's made the law."
But they also put a 10,000-page document in somebody's hand and said, "You've got 5 hours to make a decision." Yeah. I can read a lot. And I can't read 10,000 pages.
I've actually read the affordable healthcare. No, I really
it's a huge amount.
No, it takes more than. It takes at least 40, 50 hours.
But you understand the lingo. Him and I would never. Well, you might. I would never understand the lingo.
Now, granted, there's some parts you can kind of gloss over. If you're
Heart-pounding excitement is what you will find around every corner with the new Polaris Slingshot. It's like surfing pavement. After just one test drive, you will be ready to ditch the sports car, the Harley, or the sports bike and settle into the hottest thing in the street. With a 2.4-liter GM power plant churning out 173 horsepower, you will feel the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. Come on down to Midwest Motorsports on Route 3 in Hartrell, Illinois. We would love to take you for a ride.
You walk onto this campus and it feels as though you're at an Ivy League institution.
It is cultured in so many ways. You would never know that it is a 2-year college.
This place is truly amazing. I love going to school here.
It is definitely not like any other community college.
If you're looking for a way for your life to change, then Lewis and Clark is the place for you to be.
Calc Institute of Technology is working for you with career programs for today's jobs. As a career student, you can expect a welcoming atmosphere with exceptional personal service, small classes with one-on-one attention, a set class schedule, and short-term programs that will get you into the workforce quickly. Calc has 2 locations for your convenience located in both Alton and Fairview Heights. For more information, visit Calc online at www.calc.edu.
Okay, we're back. Apologize for that. We're not sure what happened there. We do got some storms in the area. We're thinking something probably jumped up on there. So we're back in there. We were still talking and didn't realize we had jumped out. So, we were talking about Affordable Health Care Act. And here's what I want. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's health care. I don't care if it's whatever. I want a debate. Because I think the problem with politicians today are, like right now, the Republicans have the House, okay, and they have the Senate, okay. So, but there's still a section of people that they've got to look out for. And that's what I felt when I saw healthcare is it didn't matter what I thought. And the people that I voted for didn't get to have the thing. So and that's what I want to see. I want that debate, and if everybody votes, and hey, at least they had the conversation,
Well, and here's how, let's have a grown-up conversation about this. The problem of healthcare has been a huge problem for the past 30 years, and healthcare costs were eating up a larger and larger portion of the gross national product year after year after year, and we're increasing at twice the rate of inflation historically over that 30-year period of time.
Right.
Now, having said that, so something needed to be done, frankly, I have some criticisms against liberals that there are some very common sense, feasible things that should have been included in the ACA to allow nationwide competition among healthcare plans. Why that wasn't done, why that wasn't considered, is testament to the process that you talked about, that it was a very partisan process. Everybody loves to dump on the affordable healthcare plan. And again, my read on it, I think it's still a little bit early, although we're starting to see some pretty bad data come in.
It's not good.
But I mean, there's a couple things that you have to remember. You have to remember that by law, healthcare companies have to spend 80% of their premiums on healthcare services. Now, my read on the numbers is that healthcare providers, and to a lesser extent healthcare insurers, have gamed the system because they know that the healthcare providers have to spend 80%. I think you've seen somewhat of a rise in healthcare costs.
Well,
I will say that the healthcare industry for years and years has really been browbeaten by the insurance industry
They have been.
to very low prices, and I think they're sort of recouping some of what they
But
lost.
we're also talking about an aging population, as we all know.
Sure.
The two most expensive times in your life for healthcare wise are when you're born and when you're dying.
Right.
So as we see boomers and seniors, the silent generation, and I'm going to use my marketing hat here.
Is it like 52 plus age or something?
It's people basically 60, born in the 60s, or up from 46 to 66 or somewhere in that
Okay,
area.
cool. I'm 68.
Mid 60s, all the way to
65.
But anyway, boomers are becoming, they're obviously the largest group of people in our society because they had the most children at that time.
And then pretty soon you're going to
Generation Y, the millennials are taking over,
and if
shortly.
I mean, it's very
unfortunately, my Generation X life will be insignificant. I've been insignificant from a marketing perspective my whole life.
I'll tell you,
there's my business. There's my business.
Here's what I saw with healthcare, and I'm seeing it now with Obama. It's a common theme with him. So early in his presidency, he did this, and he's doing it again now with Black Lives Matter. He's not addressing the root cause of the issue. He's trying to put a Band-Aid on a problem.
Yeah, Band-Aid on a bazooka hole.
Yeah, healthcare was a problem. But what was the problem with healthcare? It wasn't that everybody couldn't get it, because and nobody was denied insurance. Nobody was denied insurance. You could walk into the hospital.
Yeah, nobody was
That's
denied care. Nobody was denied care. You were denied insurance, but you were never denied care.
Well,
exactly.
Under EMTALA, you were entitled, if you were in a life-threatening situation, they had to wait till you stabilized, and then they shoved your butt out the door.
That's not true.
No, that's the law.
No, I know people that had kids. I worked with I had a person that worked with me, full-time associate, worked with me, had great opportunity for health care, had a baby coming. Everybody that I worked for me, I sat him down. We had the conversation about baby, responsibility, 401k, all that stuff. Talked about insurance, and his words to me exactly were, "I don't have insurance." I'm like, "We got to get you insurance." And he goes, "No, the state will pay for it."
Yeah.
I know of a person that had, and this is a horrible story, but was in the hospital for 10 days, addicted to heroin, had multiple surgeries, racked up $100,000 hospital bill, was wiped clean. I know this personally. I also know that during that same time, one of those family members was contacted and was turned into collection for $35.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me. So the working person is getting charged $35 in collections. They're a heroin addict, and again, that's an epidemic, another show. But he or she is scot-free. And that, to me, was
because
part of the
it's
problem.
about collectability.
It is.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, and I think there's the issue, why does it cost $100,000, to be sick? And I think but we didn't address the issue. We didn't address the issue.
We didn't open up the marketplace and let market forces actually drive costs down. We kept the borders in place that are currently there. Just like you said, we did not have portability across nationwide. There's a reason why actuary science works, and they say this many people have this disease, that's why you pay more. Just like in car insurance, if you have 4 DUIs and try to get insurance, you're going to pay a whole lot more than somebody who's never been in an accident.
Well, that was my argument with somebody one day. I'm sitting there thinking, this individual's sitting there eating a cheeseburger and smoking a cigarette, okay? And I'm working out 2 to 3 hours a day or a week, whatever, and I'm trying to stay healthy, yet we're both paying for the same insurance. So listen, we're going to take a quick break. We'll schedule one this time, and we'll be right back.
Heart-pounding excitement is what you will find around every corner with the new Polaris Slingshot. It's like surfing pavement. After just one test drive, you will be ready to ditch the sports car, the Harley, or the sports bike and settle into the hottest thing in the street. With a 2.4-liter GM power plant churning out 173 horsepower, you will feel the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. Come on down to Midwest Motorsports on Route 3 in Hartford, Illinois. We would love to take you for a ride.
You walk onto this campus and it feels as though you're at an Ivy League institution.
It is cultured in so many ways. You would never know that it is a 2-year college.
This place is truly amazing. I love going to school here.
It is definitely not like any other community college.
If you're looking for a way for your life to change, then Lewis and Clark is the place for you to be.
Calc Institute of Technology is working for you with career programs for today's jobs. As a career student, you can expect a welcoming atmosphere with exceptional personal service, small classes with one-on-one attention, a set class schedule, and short-term programs that will get you into the workforce quickly. Calc has 2 locations for your convenience located in both Alton and Fairview Heights. For more information, visit Calc online at www.calc.edu.
All right, sir, we finished all the services on your car. They'll take it over for your complimentary car wash, and they'll call you when it's ready.
Hey, all right, we're back. You're back with Brian John, special guest Todd. We might disagree. We were just talking about healthcare and the mess it was, and I was trying to point the finger at Obama for creating more messes with recent Black Lives Matter. So we kind of touched on this last week, John, and you brought some really good points, and I'm still doing some research. Okay, so I'm not ready to talk all about colorism and everything yet, although I'm learning. Okay, so and it's one thing I'd encourage everybody to do is don't jump to conclusion. Try to open your mind and learn a little bit. But I did a lot of research on Black Lives Matter. I did, and they are not what you say they are. They are an organization that was started by 3 women over the Trayvon Martin, the guy that could look like Obama's son, over that case. And I think that's when things started. When he injected into that conversation the way he did, and as he's done, it's turned this whole thing upside down.
Let's be clear about what he said. He said, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin. That's the interjection that you're referring to.
Yes. Why would you say that?
So I think it was an offhand conversational throwaway piece where he said the kid has some general resemblance to the president. I don't think he was trying to make a grand statement out of that.
But this president has gotten into with his professor and it started with his professor. Remember, the police arrested him because
the beer summit.
Yes, the beer summit I thought was completely ridiculous. This has been going on for him. He injects himself in these petty conversations that a president shouldn't get into.
I mean, how many cabinet level positions did go to the general who was killed in Afghanistan, the first 2-star general that died in combat in several decades, passed away. No cabinet level officials showed up for that funeral, but we had 5 at the Ferguson funeral for Michael Brown.
I think it was actually 2, and each of them actually knew family members there.
Well, but it's the optics. It's still nobody.
Well,
where was Obama when Scalia passed away?
Well,
he showed up to the visitation.
Right.
I mean, come on, it's the Supreme Court.
I don't think that presidents usually show up to the funerals of persons that are appointed on the other side. Something out there, if I'm wrong, show it to me, but I don't think that's
I'll
the
have
case.
to look that up, but I would say that there's been more presidents who showed up for even their political opposites
I think
in matters of state.
And I do want to get into this a little bit because people say this stuff all the time. Like, why didn't President Obama go to this funeral, that funeral? I can guarantee you that part of the job of being president is to reach out to people like that. And I think that there is staff that would reach out to family members. And sometimes I'm sure they have an honest conversation, which is, do you want the president to come? Or do you think it'd be more divisive? And sometimes people say, you know what, Mr. President, I'm not a big fan of yours. I don't want you there. And so that would be a valid objection. And there's a million things that would happen behind the scenes that you and I would never get wind of. That would be a perfect explanation as to why the president didn't go to a particular person's funeral. So I think it's a little unfair sometimes to express too much umbrage on the fact that the president didn't show up to a funeral because we don't.
I mean, I completely understand why he wouldn't go to Nancy Reagan's funeral this year. I mean, that was something that, you know, I mean, like, I can get that. I can understand that side of it. But as far as a Supreme Court justice, I think that's. I mean, even if you are the most, even if you disagree on everything policy-wise, it's still a Supreme Court justice.
Well, I disagree totally because Scalia was at one of Obama's biggest fundraisers' house when he died. So
yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying it doesn't really matter at that point. The optics are kind of bad.
You know, I think it just goes back to Obama's put himself in a lot of bad positions, and I think, you know, when you look at concerns with Donald Trump, you know, you can have those same concerns because you're seeing them with Obama. You know, like I told you last week, the only thing he did great before he became president was an Oprah interview. You know, I mean, he can campaign well. But he's not a great leader. You know, he's just not a great leader.
Campaigner in chief.
He doesn't inspire people, and I don't know if he means to do it, but he did say he's going to fundamentally change America. He's done that. You read his book, and I've read his book, and everything he does is, and this man is calculated. I don't believe in mistakes with this man. You know, I think he sympathizes with the black community, you know, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I really don't. You know, I mean, I sympathize, you know. So, but I'm not going to ever I'm not going to say that this shooting is good or bad until I have the facts in front of me. And as a lawyer, John, that should have just drive you nuts that people can come to that conclusion.
And frankly, on all the police shootings, if you've watched what I say on Facebook or if you've heard me in conversations, I am very adamant, having represented police officers and sue police officers, every case is different. The facts are absolutely important. Every little nuance in terms of a gesture or a little bit of background or any prior interactions, all of that stuff matters. And I'm the last person, and even to some extent, you know, I probably jumped the gun a little bit on the Michael Brown case, but, you know, I think that was a good shoot. I know that drives a lot of my liberal friends crazy, but I spent hours and hours looking at the medical evidence. You know, one of the things that I tell people to do is don't take my word for it. Take the Brown's family. They hired a doctor to do an autopsy, and what did he find?
They hired the best one available.
Yeah, the leading
and he
expert
said that it's all basically, you know, the wounds were basically that he was coming after them.
Yeah.
Their front entrance wounds, I think 3 exit wounds.
And they went up his arm as he was falling away.
So,
you know, it's even like this guy. So we saw these 2 shootings here lately, and you know, we saw a shooting of a white kid. Nothing. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, what I saw, good shoot. You know what I mean? A good shoot. The guy up in Minneapolis was pulled over for a broken taillight. Not true. He fit the description of a person that was in an armed robbery earlier. We were told he had a conceal and carry. Not true. He did have a gun. That's true. He was told not to move, and he did. So the police, listen, they're nervous. Alton Sterling, down there. You know, why were the police there? Because he was pulling the gun on somebody, and he was trying to rob somebody, and the police were called, and they show up, and then he's fighting. If you look at the one video in his hand, he's reaching into that pocket for that gun and trying to point it up at the cop.
and they're going with partial information as well. They
don't even care.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think that our listeners need to understand, is that with respect to the law and what's reasonable for an officer to do, the officer doesn't have to be right. No. The officer doesn't have to sit there and guess and have to say, I've got to be sure that's a gun, because it happens too quickly. If someone reaches in their pocket and pulls out a cell phone that in a dark alley looks shiny like a piece of metal, like a gun,
you're gonna get shot.
And that's the unfortunate circumstance. But that's the cost of police interaction.
And here's my other part too. I hear everybody talking about we're afraid of the police, but no, you're not. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not afraid of the police. I'm not afraid of them at all. But when they tell me to do something, I do it. And it's just because I have respect for their job. It's already hard enough as it is. I'm not going to make it worse. And by the way, if they're there talking to me, I've done something. And you can say, okay, well, you're not black. Okay, and that's another conversation. But at the same time, too, when you're driving through a predominantly black neighborhood, they're not pulling over everybody. They're not stopping every car. They're not hitting every person walking. There's a certain person they'll go after. And,
But the converse, I do believe is true, because if you ever come with me to night court in Frontenac or a number of other places and you see the composition of, Ladue, Clayton, you look at the people that are there at night court and you look at the population of African Americans in Clayton and Ladue and so forth, and you know that there's no other way to explain the fact that you've got 50-60% of the people being ticketed are African American.
Well, if that's going on, it needs to be addressed.
Don't take my word for it. Just look it up and go to any of those municipalities whenever they have the traffic court. Poke your head in there and see what goes on, and you'll see it's amazing to me. The other asterisk I do want to, because it's a little easy for us to sit in an armchair quarterback position to say, that African Americans should behave differently. The asterisk that you and I have, and Todd, perhaps you have, is that I don't worry about what an officer is going to do because I know I can address it in court, or you can hire an attorney. Some folks don't have the means to hire an attorney, and they also know, because of the color of their skin and the treatment that they've received both in court and by police officers, that they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And so to say that our experience and their experience is the same isn't really fair, and I don't think it's really accurate.
Well, just to be on the record, I have had many attempts to get somebody on here, an African American on this show to talk, because I want to hear from them. So I don't pretend like I know.
Right.
But I know this. I know that when I'm in those areas where I'm not so welcome, I behave differently. I'm a little more... you know what I mean? I do, okay? I do. I know my ground, my boundaries, and I'm aware of them. And I think when I see somebody arguing with the police, I'm sorry, you're just not showing me that you're afraid of them. You're being argumentative.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's okay to argue with the police. I don't think that that's okay. And I think it's a really poor behavior that gets a lot of people shot unnecessarily.
If your first response to a police officer's question is why or you've already started the doubt process with that police officer.
Yeah.
I worked in a bar, I worked the door. When I asked somebody for their ID and I saw the picture and maybe it didn't quite match up and I asked them their name, if they went, Bill, that immediately threw a red flag in
Sorry,
me. Even if their name was William, when they made the sound, well, it threw a red flag up. And granted, I can't say that charging in as a police officer versus a door guy at a bar, local bar, sports bar, is the same thing. Sure. But the principles are the same. When you answer a question with a question, just think about it when you were a kid. If you answered a question with a question, what happened? You probably got in more trouble because you red flagged it.
It's a behavior, and the police they know. Because they don't shoot everybody they pull over.
No.
And if they're given as many tickets as they are, and I think there's some profiling going on, and there is.
There's profiling going on because unfortunately, that's how you find. I went to U of I. We had a rash of crime on campus, and it was kind of funny. We made a joke out of it in the MBA program.
Let's do a quick break, okay? Let's do a quick break. I want to talk about it because I want to talk about some more things too. So let's get a quick break in. You're listening to Brian John, special guest Todd. We might disagree. We'll be right back, man.
Roper's Regal Beagle, located on Godfrey Road, is the Metro East premier sports bar and grill. Open Sunday through Thursday till 2 a.m. and Fridays and Saturdays till 3 a.m. At Roper's Regal Beagle, you will enjoy some of the area's best pizza from their wood-fired pizza oven. There's also a full kitchen offering a huge variety, as well as a soup and salad bar. Sports fans, Roper's Regal Beagle is the place to watch the game. 27 TVs, NFL ticket, Big Ten, Pac-12, and streaming local high school sports.
I'll grab the birthday cake, you bring the gift, if you're sure she's ready. She's 16, honey, and she's earned a set of keys.
She's studied and practiced, I know, but it's a big responsibility.
When you have a teen driver, it's good to know that Madison Mutual has the insurance coverage you need.
She's ready, and so are we. I talked to our Madison Mutual agent.
Call Barry Macias, your local independent insurance agent, at 467-2874.
The more life changes, the more you need Madison Mutual.
You walk onto this campus and it feels as though you're at an Ivy League institution.
It is cultured in so many ways. You would never know that it is a 2-year college.
This place is truly amazing. I love going to school here.
It is definitely not like any other community college.
If you're looking for a way for your life to change, then Lewis and Clark is the place for you to be.
Calc Institute of Technology is working for you with career programs for today's jobs. As a career student, you can expect a welcoming atmosphere with exceptional personal service, small classes with one-on-one attention, a set class schedule, and short-term programs that will get you into the workforce quickly. Calc has 2 locations for your convenience located in both Alton and Fairview Heights. For more information, visit Calc online at www.calc.edu.
Okay, we're back. Thanks for coming back with us. You're with We Might Disagree, Brian John, special guest Todd. So we've been talking about Black Lives Matter, and I really want to get somebody on here to talk to us about it, because I think 3 white guys talking about it's just not the right thing to do. We need that input from that person that does experience it, you know. But I will say, so these police shootings, I've been watching them. We're all watching them. We're all devastated by them, and we're all angry, and we've all got our opinions. But something that I have not heard get brought up yet, and that I think may have a connection, is PTSD. Both of these men were angry, okay? Both these men were military. Both these men fought in wars. They know how to fight. They're obviously angry, okay? I don't know, but why is nobody bringing this up? Why does it just have to be about racism? Somebody should be looking at this. I'm not saying it's not racism. Right. I'm not saying they're not targeting police.
What's interesting is they're actually killing some black officers.
Yeah, I think
this guy did. Yeah.
Well, I think both of them.
There
were minority officers, at least one minority officer involved.
Right.
I think what it is this is a sensitive subject. I mean, when you're talking about PTSD, this is something that's been going on since the trench warfare in World War I, shell shock.
Yeah.
I think we don't want to talk about it. It goes back to, I think, a little bit about the problems with the VA. And those guys not getting maybe proper care and getting properly taken care of, and again, I think that's just it's really hard because you don't want to blame the military. I think that's probably the other overarching theme is you don't want to blame.
I don't blame the military for it.
But you're gonna have people that are gonna go that route though. They're gonna take it to that level.
Yeah, but I think it'd be better to be honest about what it is. At least look into it, than create this bigger division. And I don't really think that racial issues are worse now than they've been. I think they're worse now than they were 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. But
I think we are just having more conversation about it.
I think we are.
I think it's worse. I think it's worse in my lifetime now than it's ever been.
Well, maybe in your lifetime and mine, but I think you go back to the '60s. It was
bad. There's obviously a huge difference between 1960s and today, but even then, it's getting.
But there's
difficult.
Still, I just feel like that before we categorize these, and I don't care what the problem is. They're targeting police leaders, and about what they do.
Is any type of mental illness?
There is,
and until our society changes and becomes more enlightened to be accepting of people who have psychological issues, we're going to continue to have these problems. And so, the first thing you have to do is to be able to, in an open forum, to talk about problems. And part of it is, and you can certainly speak to this better than I can, Brian. We have war heroes that come home, and you get the celebration and all the parades and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden the music stops, and then they're left trying to cope with their lives. And if you see what these guys have to deal with in terms of the stress level, and to see somebody next to you getting shot and killed, and to see some of the things that go on that these people have to deal with in terms of the ugliness of war, and unfortunately every war children are going to get killed, And every war, you're going to have innocent people getting killed.
Right.
You're going to have friendly fire. You're going to have all kinds of stuff that nobody wants to talk about. But that's the downside of war, and it's unavoidable. And so if we really are serious about this problem, A, we have to be able to talk about it, and B, we have to allocate resources. And, whenever you have a budget, look at the state budget, state of Illinois' budget. What do they cut first? It's payment for mental health care as a non-essential. We have to view mental health care as equivalent to physical health care, and just say health care and not make this false distinction.
But I also think that we as a society, and I don't know, I'm just going to speak for myself, is guys, and especially men, we don't talk about our problems.
Sure.
We do not come out and say.
I cried last night when Marcus Luttrell was talking.
Right, but that was, but again, that was an emotional. I mean, very rarely, but you wouldn't have very many conversations about that unless he was somebody who inspired you. We've all cried at movies, and at that emotional moment in the movie that you find it. But realistically speaking, when it comes down to day-to-day stressful situations, we don't talk about it. We internalize it.
That way. I mean,
how many times have you said, I'm really depressed, I don't know that I can really go on, I have a lot of adversity, everybody, I need help. How often have you done that?
I've talked to my wife about that before. When I first lost my brother, I wasn't sure, when I first lost my brother, I kind of thought it would be like losing my grandparents. No, and I love my grandparents. My grandpa's my hero. But in a couple of weeks, you kind of go on and move on with life. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when it's your little brother, here it is. 12 years later, I still haven't really. I don't think I'm any better today than I was the day after. You know what I mean? I just think I handle it better. I've learned to live.
Right.
With this,
You've gone through the grieving process.
Yeah,
but again, it's like John was saying. We don't. As a society, and especially as men and as middle-aged men, we don't ask for help.
Well, we should.
This was something you were taught as a little boy. Was you don't ask for help and you don't tell on people.
I share my story because I want people to know that if you have lost somebody, and I think there's that whole chain to the order. You see, and he was my little brother. So he was this 30-year-old really tough Marine. You know what I mean? He was rocking and rolling over there, right? But to me, he's this little bitty.
Right,
my little brother, so it's okay to still be hurting 10 years later, and I think there's a guy that we're doing, I'm partnering up with him to do my brother's workout, Derek Wida, and this guy's battled through some stuff, and I love his attitude. If you get a chance on Facebook, go check him out. I'll post some stuff on our wall with him. He's a very unique individual, been through PTSD. He helps guys with it, and he talks about it. And here's this dude. He's this giant. I think I showed you pictures, John. He's this.
Oh yeah, you showed me his website.
He's an impressive individual, and and he will be the first one to tell you the battles. I mean, inside of you that you have, and I witnessed. I'll be honest with you. I didn't give PTSD a thought. I thought it was weakness, and then I slowly started coming around, and then I've actually been around somebody that has it, and I'm telling you, it's real. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. I almost feel like I'd rather see my brother in peace than dealing with this, And every day these guys, 22 a day, are killing themselves.
Yep.
And I just feel like, to me, these shootings are related to that. And I know it's going to make a lot of people mad for me saying that, but that's all right. I don't care. You can get mad because I'm going to say stuff to make you mad. I don't care. Listen, these guys are fighting for us. How do you go from defending our country to coming home and then targeting police officers?
Right.
There's
a fall from grace there.
Something
and
happened, man. Something happened.
Well, but again, it's the frustration. And I think again it goes. But I think you might have a point there. There might be a connection, and again, it goes back to
gets a nut.
Hey, we're right 58% of the time.
I just want somebody to look at it. Is what I want. I don't want if you really want to calm these waters that are so watery right now out there, you've got to say, hey, we got to look at this, and I just think that there's something there that and I could be wrong, and it could have nothing to do with it, and it could just be they were just bad guys, okay? Maybe. But look at everything. And I would want the same, I'm asking the same thing for the police officers when they just look at everything. Look at their entire, if you got a police officer for 20 years, he's never fired his weapon, all of a sudden he fires his weapon. Come on.
Right. He didn't go to work that day saying, boy, I hope I get to shoot some black kids.
I actually know a young man who was working in North County for police department, various police departments. He just resigned, and one of the reasons why was what happened in Dallas. And he's like, you know, it was going good. I was doing what I thought was right. I believed in my job, and then Ferguson happened, and now I became the enemy because I'm a white guy working in a black neighborhood, and I have to, you know, he's like, I just couldn't keep moving forward with this. I was afraid, and he told the story about having his taser drawn on somebody with a gun who was accosting another person, and luckily everything went down the right way and nobody got hurt. But his whole mindset was, I don't want to be the next Darren Wilson. I don't want to be the next person that kills a black person and become the focal point of all this anger and rage and hate. And that's why he quit. He goes, that was the seminal moment. I was in danger, and I was thinking, I hope this doesn't go the way I think it is.
So let me ask you this. Does Trump make this better or worse?
I don't know. I mean...
Because everybody says he's racist. And
I don't know if he's...
Look, they say it.
Here's
I
the
think
thing.
he's a xenophobe. I don't think he's racist.
I think that we've come to a point now in our discussions and political discussions, and again, this goes back to that Facebook, Google, and Twitter mentality, which is, if you don't agree with me, you're a racist. I see it all the time.
It is pretty.
And you're Hitler, and I mean, everybody who disagrees with me is Hitler, and that as a person who is conservative, that offends me more than anything else.
Well, you've got so I would say this: you've got people that are on the right and people on the left that will always go to the extreme.
Right.
You know, I'd say here, 3-4 moderate people talking. You know, John is progressive. You know, and he admits it, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah,
Right.
he's excited. About
I mean,
it.
there's some value to having social programs. I
But
mean,
he's not going to look down on you or I because we don't agree with them. You know.
But
so I just think that's where people they get all tied up in it. They get it's emotion to them, and they got to take emotion. It's like with me. Okay, I'm not voting for Hillary Clinton. I can't stand the woman. I think she should be in jail. I think her husband should be in jail. They're corrupt as all get out. But you know what? At the end of the day, if she's
and when you ask Donald, just big is why I am voice. When you were the number for the presidency, if something should happen and you don't handle classified information correctly, and that's FBI, that's not internet, that's not Todd talking, that's Jim Comey, FBI investigation, and other instances in that case. I mean, maybe she didn't do anything criminal. That's fine. We're not talking about criminality. We're talking about handling the information in a way. You've been in the public eye for 35 years. You've been around this. You've been a senator, a secretary of state, first lady. You should know better.
First lady of Arkansas too.
Yeah, I'm just saying. In 35 years, you knew better.
She should have done better.
She should. See, he takes a lawyer approach to it.
No, I mean, you know, she should. She was cutting corners because of her position.
She got complacent. She got caught, and then she lied about it. And that's her MO. It's what she does. And listen, I guarantee you this, and I'll say it right here on the record now. If she wins the presidency, which I think she will, because I think it's been promised to her, I tell you now, something bad will happen 2 years, and there'll be some kind of a scandal. She's a Clinton. They can't avoid it. So, John, last words, man.
Well, my concern about Donald Trump as president has actually far less to do with his politics, because to be honest with you, I still don't really know what his politics are. They tend to fluctuate depending upon his mood or what year and so forth. That's a fair point to an extent, but I think I can show there's a great deal more fluidity with Donald Trump than with some of the other people that have run. My concern is the lack of competence in not just him, but the people that surround him. You know, we're all laughing today about Melania Trump and the plagiarism thing. To me, whether or not she committed plagiarism is secondary to the fact that there wasn't somebody on the staff that took a look at her speech to find out, A, is she going to say something offensive? B, is this something that should be said? C, put it in that program that your college professor has to find out whether your paper's plagiarism or not. So for me, and this isn't...
I'm on the same boat with you on that.
This isn't the only time this has happened. I mean, when he announced that he was running for president, he used Neil Young's music without his permission. If you're a professional organization, you have to get permission to use somebody's music.
Him in. He's not professional organized. He's not. This is his first run.
And it's cute for like a TV show, like a sitcom or a reality television show. But we're talking about running the most powerful nation in the history of the world. And I'd rather not give that to amateurs. And he's not shown so far.
8 years ago, we did.
No, you can argue whatever you want to about Obama, but he was surrounded by professional people with a great deal of experience. Did he make some mistakes? Sure. But we don't have the level of amateur play that we're seeing out of the Trump campaign.
I would not agree.
We're taking fundamental, basic mistakes that had nothing to do with political orientation.
It concerned me when it happened. I will tell you that. I mean, because it's and we'll do it. So, Todd, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Very much. Next week we're going to do a Hillary show / Bernie. I think there's going to be some fireworks. This will be up soon. I apologize for the technical difficulties. We'll get it up, and we will see you next week, man. Thank you so much. Have a great day.